It's Jay. I'm back again for another one. And tonight I have with me.
Oh, it's Drew. I'm back. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you.
Without a dope rhyme to step to. That's right.
Yeah.
How you
Uh,
been?
Man, I've been good, man. I'm excited to be back because we got so much to talk about. We're gonna have to do a couple of different shows because there's so many different things going on in the culture. But today I'm back just to talk about Katt Williams real quick. He
Okay.
dropped a live, which
Yeah.
is interesting in itself that Netflix gave him a live special. The idea that they went live
Right.
with Katt Williams, which they've not done a lot of.
No. Only one I really remember them doing as of recent time was Chris Rock.
Yeah,
They did his
Chris
live,
Rock.
and
Yeah,
that's when he did his response about the whole Will Smith slap.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this week, John Mulaney has a live show going
Yes.
on. This week is also, as you know, as we're recording and as things are going on, is the Netflix is a joke comedy festival is
Yeah.
going on. So he's a part of the Netflix is a joke comedy festival
Yeah.
kind of celebration. He's like part of what you would say the headlining features of it. So
Yeah. And they doing this. They doing a live roast of what's that football
Tom
player? Tom Brady.
Tom Brady tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
Kevin Hart is hosting that, I believe.
yeah, it's remarkable what Netflix has done. Just as like that side conversation you always have before we get to it.
Right.
It's remarkable that Showtime and HBO, used to be like the
Right.
comedy special kings, right?
Yes. Yes.
And back in the day, George Carlin really put HBO on the map.
Yeah.
In general, when it came to comedy specials, that wasn't a thing until in my opinion, I feel
Hmm.
like Carlin was the first one that really had the comedy specials with HBO. And that wasn't really a thing, until then. And now to think that like Netflix is who we think about. You don't think
Yeah.
about like, and HBO's, Warner Brothers, HBO, they got Carmichael and a few other people who got some specials. I don't know if you were doing a show on the Carmichael show. You're not watching it.
No.
The people can't see you shake your head. No, it was a vigorous head shake. No, I
I
got some
meant
wind.
that.
I got some wind all the way over here in Vancouver with that head shake. From the bay all the way to here, I got some head shake from the wind from that one.
I meant that. I meant that. No, that's a hard no. Nope.
But like so, HBO still got they dipping their toe in the water with they stand up specials. I think Shay had a good strong one, but even his Netflix special was stronger. Comedy Central still the standard, especially for handing out good new guys coming into the game. But
Right.
Netflix is who is starting to become the standard, especially with giving out the bigger money. Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised that HBO let that go because I remember, like, even back in the day, even Martin Lawrence, he had that 30-minute set, the 30-minute special, right?
yeah.
And I'm kind of curious on why they even let that go because that was a good staple to have. And then when they did Def Jam, wasn't it through HBO as well?
Yeah, part of that is Warner Brothers being bankrupt. I think part of that is
Oh,
the money not being there to throw around, and Netflix has hit that point. And Netflix has hit that point too, because here recently in the last Netflix public meeting,
hmm,
they said they were going to stop making their numbers known. And that's what a company does when they're new. They have to
yes,
let numbers be known so that they can tell the world what they're doing. And
right,
now they've hit big boy status where they're like, we don't have to tell you. They never have to tell you how many subscriptions they have.
right. But would they always kind of hush on that information anyway? They would never really say how much Stranger Things did, and they've never really said because I think that it came up with them because some show that everybody thought was popular ended up not getting renewed, and they were like wondering, so how's it compare? And they wouldn't really say. It wasn't given any rhyme or reason.
They've never given ratings, but what they used to do was give subscription numbers. Now they're done with that. So
Huh.
they used to say, hey, well, so to be honest, they never gave specific subscription numbers. So they used to say like, hey, we're making 17 billion in subscription. We're spending 20 billion in content every year,
Mhm.
right? That used to be the numbers that they would give. Now they're saying we're giving nothing. That still did not infer a loss, but that still would be the numbers that they would always make available to Forbes and other outlets. Now
Okay.
they're like, no, we're not even giving any of those numbers. There's always been an absorbent amount of money that they would make, and like, you turn on a movie and you be like that one Will Smith movie, and it's like 50 Pepsi, ads in the middle of the
Right.
movie, and like, so that movie didn't lose money,
Right.
you know. But yeah, Netflix has just reached that point. Netflix has just reached that point where that's who they are now, man. They've just reached that point where they can dish out a lot of money to these comics to do their specials, and it gives you a reason to run to them. And now, and this is something that you may not even know if you just pay for it and don't pay attention,
Mhm.
that if you got Netflix and you're not paying top dollar, they got commercials on Netflix for the lower tier.
I heard he's going to do that option because Amazon Prime is doing that. It threw me off. It's almost like I got to find other means of watching.
I think I was at a Airbnb, and it was like, yeah, we got Netflix and blah blah blah, and I'm watching this show on Netflix, and then a commercial came on, and I was like, what country am I'm looking at, like, I knew I was gonna get murdered in my sleep that night, because I was like, how y'all gonna have Netflix commercials?
Right.
I knew I was in them. I knew I was in Twilight Zone, them, something.
Right.
I knew Jordan Peele playing this.
Right.
I knew Tyler Perry had nothing to do with it because it was too well written. All right, I think I checked off everything in our agenda.
Yeah.
I mentioned all the people we always mention.
Yeah, you did. That was nicely done. Yeah, you're right. They are known for like the face of comedy, but it's funny. I think of them more when it comes up to how much they're paying people or who they having on there than I do the actual comedy that's on there. Because I will say this, the comedy specials I have saw on there, to me, they don't hit me. And maybe it's just, these comedians are in their later years or it wasn't the right set for me or whatever. But I remember like on HBO, when you watch comedies on there, even if you know who it was hidden. It seemed like it was more curated. These are almost kind of like, hey, we'll give you a check, you do what you want. It's not curated at all. So even though there's more and they're known for it, I can't say that the specials that I've seen on Netflix, the comedy specials, have been hitting me like they did when I used to watch them on HBO. And not to say that my tastes aren't different or nothing, but just like the movies, like the Netflix straight movies, like those are almost equivalent to a straight to DVD movie than they are to a blockbuster that happened to be on Netflix. Like they're the new blockbusters. When you just picking through B movies, they don't get theatrical release. They're more on that level to me than,
So they're the Cold Black and like Brian Hooks type movies.
Yeah, and
yeah,
because even the ones with the big stars and stuff, you watch them and be like, oh, it's like they're the Hollywood blockbuster people you would normally see, and they're on Netflix and they got the budget, but it's not the same. Like who I'm seeing who pays that kind of money and give you the quality of a movie theater, if not better, is Apple TV. Like the projects they do on there, to me, that's like a movie you would see in a theater that happens to be on streaming.
Now I can
Netflix feel like Netflix to me. Amazon feels like Amazon to me.
Yeah. Now the funny thing,
not being messy, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. And I think if you're taking a chance on yourself as a comedian, and you're producing your own special, and you're able to sell it, and Amazon picks it up, and you're lucky to get it on Amazon, go for it. And there's a few funny ones that you'll find on Amazon that's the case with Amazon. Amazon's not producing nothing for nobody, right? In the case of anywhere else, that's typically what you're gonna find. Mm-hmm. And then you got a lot of people like Ali Sadiq, who's out there. He's got Domino Effect 1 and 2 that he puts straight to YouTube, but then Domino Effect 3 and 4, you go to his website and you get Domino Effect 3 and 4 through like his Patreon or through Patreon Momentum, where you can watch it and you got access to it for like 60 days or whatever, right? And it's the same as if you saw it, like live on tour or whatever, right?
That's cool.
And I think those are the ways that a lot of comedians are trying to do it. You got your Kevin on stages
Yeah.
who are doing their things, where he's putting out a bunch of different comedians. He's putting out a special a month where it's 5 or 6 different ones. I brought his a couple of months ago. He's got comedian CP
Hmm.
from Detroit, and he tells this joke about his cousin
Hmm.
that is one of the most well crafted. He's one of the funniest cats in the game, and
Yeah.
it was worth my money. Everybody else on that whole lineup, I was like, all right, I cackled maybe once, but
Yeah.
CP was worth the $20. Like, so I can appreciate what comedy is doing through the internet.
Yeah.
But so to see Katt Williams use to be able to do the live thing, I think the idea that like, yeah, it was live, cool. There was no added value to it being live. Like, I don't know why it was live. To me, so what that it was live? I just so happened to have been at home. I was on the phone with my brother and I was like, oh, yo, this Katt Williams is about to come on. So I went ahead and called it. The funny thing is, on X or Twitter, if you're black and refuse to go ahead and call it X, like myself, everybody was just knowing that somehow that this Kendrick Lamar beef was going to somehow intertwine with it. And I'm dead serious. There was a bunch of people on X that was like, I bet you somehow Kendrick Lamar is going to walk Katt Williams out because he's a truth teller. And like, but it did not. The two did not mix in.
That would be dope.
Because, yeah, because there was this concept of maybe like that Kendrick is a truth teller, and he's the one. It's sort of like how Katt in the Shay interview exposed, Diddy on the side by saying, like, you got to tell Diddy no.
Got to tell him no.
And it turns out that Diddy is, sex predator,
Right.
and all these other different things. So people started to see this tie-in there.
Because Kendrick did kind of do like the handoff thing. He did mention Katt in one of his rebuttals. It was almost like a handoff, like, okay, well, Katt started, so I'm gonna, like, I'm gonna take it from here, or Katt said. So that would have made sense. That would have been plausible.
And, a bit of a stretch, but I think the part of it is, I think that people recognize that there's within those two things, that there's a little bit of a culture war between individuals recognizing that there is a culture war between this pervasive celebrity culture that has taken over, that takes over. You have Black culture, and I hate to quote Chris Rock here, because it ain't really Chris Rock saying it, but it's this pervasive thought of like, there's our culture then versus this more colonized version or imitation of what they think and what they want our culture to represent.
Yeah.
So there's inward culture, and then there's our actual true culture. Our true culture is flawed and conflicted, but true.
Yes.
It is a pure in heart culture. It's a culture of repentance, and one that is truly flawed, where we do make a bunch of mistakes. It's a culture that, it's a culture that it actually has twerking in it. So you see what I'm saying? Like, it's a culture that twerks. It's a culture that may have a person that ends up hitting a wife. It's a culture that does have alcoholics. It does have all these different things, but it's a culture that also has people who say they sorry and go to rehab. It's a person who stops all the twerking and becomes, missionaries at the church. It's, but you see what I'm saying? It's a full circle culture.
Exactly.
That's who we are, and that's the beauty of our culture. Then there's this other representation of the culture that's just exploitative, exploits it. Right. And I think that's what Katt talked about on Shay, when he talked about the whole concept of that's what this year is going to be about. When he talked about there's the truth versus the lie. So going into this stand-up, that's what I thought this stand-up was going to be representative of. And so when this beef is coming, and this beef feels like it's representative of the truth versus the lie, right. And then, so I'm thinking Katt about to come out, and it's going to be more of the truth versus the lie, because he didn't already whetted our appetite on Shay with the truth versus the lie. So I was excited for this stand-up, and to some extent, he didn't let me down, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's my setup for talking about the cat, how I built up to talking about the Katt Williams stand up.
Okay, so real quickly before I forget, when you said he didn't take advantage of it being live, what would be an example of that? Any special would be, like you said, like a regular special if you pre-recorded or not. So what would be the live interaction that would have, because I don't know how any of it would necessarily being live would do anything unless it was just some kind of trip up or something, or somebody made a mistake.
I think that's my point. Maybe I misspoke when I said that. I don't think that there was a purpose of it being.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I think that was maybe the point that I was trying to say, and maybe I just misrepresented it. But what I was getting at is there is no advantage of it being live.
Short of what you said, Kendrick walking out or something, or Kendrick drops the diss thing and then he comes out on stage and said the rest of the rap or something, or
right, like there is, unless he was gonna do something mind blowing.
Okay, I get it.
Why go live?
Yeah.
Now, so I see what he did. He dangled a carrot by being live.
Yeah.
Because if it's not live, who cares? The cat's dropping another. So that was the genius of it. I'm live. I'm a firecracker. You don't know what I'm gonna do. Yeah. So if he's not live, do you care?
Like I said, I don't know if it adds anything to it or not. Just like with Chris Rock, I don't think his made a difference from being live either. We just wanted to hear what he's going to say about that slap. And instead of saying it in the beginning and getting it out of the way and kind of dealing with it, he just kind of drawed out the whole thing, and everybody's one thing on their mind. What do you got to say about Will Smith? What do you got to say about Will Smith? And saved it for the end. So, yeah, I don't, like I said, short of some kind of interaction thing that could be happening real time with the audience, it would be no purpose of it. I think sometimes, even with him, it threw me off that it's almost like they get stuck in the headlights when it's like, oh, we're live, and then he'll make like comments like, oh, you can't tell what's going to happen, or or we're on live TV. Like, you even saying that you're live right now is bringing attention, is dating what you're doing. Like, that has nothing to do with the joke. It has nothing to do with that. So it's like they're excited, like it's some tightrope, but it's like you do live all the time when you go into clubs and everything else. Everything is live basically when you're doing it for him. So so to mention it like that, yeah, to me it just kind of rubbed me weird when I was like, okay, that's fine, it's live, but like you said, what does that mean though? How does it doesn't make this any more dangerous or anything like that? But I was kind of thinking like maybe he'll say something and later on they might not like it or whatever, and then they'll have to erase it later or something. But even when he made a comment saying that could happen, okay, I'm a fan of Katt Williams. Do I think he's hilarious necessarily? No. Do he have one special that I really like? Yes. Do I like his brand of comedy? It just kind of depends on the mood I'm in. I like him for his intellect. I just like the comedian that Dave Chappelle is now, and people are like, oh, you should tell more jokes. I'm tired of hearing you philosophizing. I like that kind of stuff. I like how stuff could be kind of funny, ironic, or funny because it's the truth, or funny because it hurts. And Katt kind of does that. He kind of feeds the truth in things, and is it laughed out loud? But no, but I like how he thinks about things, his perspective and his connections to things. Like, he made a joke about his son being on medication, and he's like, Daddy, I want to run, but I can't, because he was on this medication that slowed his kid down. And it's just like to bring that attention, like, yeah, that's funny that your kid is kind of, doped up, but then it's also sad too, because he's kind of taking the kid's essence of him. He's a kid that runs around a lot, and that's part of him. And so when that's taken away and he's confused because, his body won't move the way his mind does, it was like touching, and it was sad. So it was just like, so things like that, or him going to the party and going to the wrong room, like, oh, what's in this room? Like, It was more what's going on with that than it was funny walking into a room and seeing something crazy. So he always kind of had truth in his jokes. So I liked the stories and the connections and the stuff that he was sharing more so than looking for the laugh. Now the audience is cracking up, so that's fine. So he's funny. People think he's funny, and that's fine. But I never went to him for that kind of laughter. But if I would have got it, it wouldn't have been a problem. And then I think what messed it up for me in a way is that after his Club Shay Shay interview, and he was saying he was going to, he's going on tour and all that kind of stuff. I was just curious, like, what was he going to be doing? And I don't know if I would necessarily go to a Katt Williams concert live necessarily. So I went on YouTube and saw a show that he was, doing shortly after he did the Club Shay Shay interview. And I watched it on YouTube. And it was okay. It had funny parts about it and stuff, but it was just kind of like, oh, okay. I almost felt like his conversation on Club Shay Shay was more entertaining because I got more out of it for me. And I thought he was funnier because he was witty and quick against somebody who was just kind of having a conversation, but he's kind of slick talking and he's like, punching, but kind of putting his hands behind his back kind of thing. So the funniness is just like, we supposed to be here and he's embarrassing this guy, right? This guy has a lineup and his thing is based off of not him, but the people that he brings in. And then this safe place that he's supposed to bring his friends and people he want to know in, Katt is burning it down. So it's funny to me because like, thanks for coming, but you're ruining me kind of thing, just kind of seeing like him being uncomfortable and Katt just talking sideways and Shay can't really take it because he's trying to act like it's not bothering him. It's almost kind of like Shay was the bus driver, but then, he got his bus hijacked by Katt and now he's in the back seat and he's trying to hold on for dear life and Katt just going wherever he wants to go and doing donuts and he can't do nothing about it. So to me, that was entertaining just because, his show got hijacked. He thought he was having a conversation with him, but that's not what that was. Katt was on a mission to get folks back and right some wrongs that he felt was wrong. And Shay couldn't do nothing about it but sit there and host, but he was hosting from the back seat. And so me watching that comedy that he did on tour after that, seeing that, it was pretty much what that special was. So to me, I had heard all that stuff and he didn't really change it up. It was already kind of set. And so, and it wasn't like none of the jokes was necessarily so funny that I couldn't wait to hear it again. So when I heard it again, it was just still kind of like, oh, okay, that was cool. But I already kind of saw it already.
Yeah.
And the changes that they made wasn't really big enough for me to be like, oh, he really, adjusted that, or he really had a different take on it. It was pretty straightforward to what he was traveling with.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing with most comedy too, is that, with a lot of comedians, their style is their style, and once you've seen it, and you've got to just be a fan and you want to see it again. Right. And I think for both of us to not be huge Katt Williams fans in that way, but have an appreciation for what he's meaning to the culture at the time.
Right.
And kind of having a responsibility to the culture to watch. I went into it watching it. And I think, right out the gate, as he began, he started off in his typical fashion. He makes his initial joke praising the women, makes his initial sex joke, which was, mediocre. But then he makes this joke. He does the shock value jokes. He does a couple of shock value jokes. He comes in with the blind football player joke. So spoiler alert.
Right.
So if you haven't watched it, he does a joke about a blind football player.
Right.
Which, let's be honest, it makes you laugh and you hate yourself for laughing. Because it's not like a hilarious laugh.
Right.
But you laugh. It's one of those, you do laugh, but then he spends a little bit too much time on it, but you laugh.
Yeah.
But he spends a little bit too much time on it. The thing is, for me, I couldn't help but notice that Katt is one of those individuals that, once again, not, for us, I don't have intention to spend the whole night critiquing every single joke or whatever.
Right.
But it's just I understand that there's got to be this hey, I'm here. I got to say, I'm going to say something, right?
Right.
He grabbed our attention with that joke, right? Because then he takes us the next joke he has to set up, because he really only had one, hey, this is what y'all here for. Y'all want me to say something shady about somebody else.
Right.
And he had to drive us through a bunch of other stuff in order to say something shady about another celebrity, instead of just saying it straight up. So he kind of does a sneak diss.
Right.
And that was it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It was that I like I said, I didn't laugh, but I am surprised that and this is not a surprise. Like this tells me how much the special didn't hit, or you could tell the difference between him and a Dave Chappelle.
Hmm.
If Dave Chappelle made that joke, it would have been headlines.
Yeah.
He also made a handful of transgender jokes. Not a handful, but he also made other jokes. He made some, some jokes that no one has mentioned that Katt made some jokes that if Dave would have made, it would have been headlines. Kind of
Yeah.
shows that he ain't on that level. But we already know he wasn't on that level, but he ain't close to on that level. Because ain't nobody talking about. Have you noticed ain't nobody really talking about this? We're talking about it, but
I think the culture probably already saw his stuff already, like I did. And when they showed it live, like you said, the blind football player, the timing was off because even on YouTube when I saw it, it was a quicker kind of cut to things. You could tell like the camera wasn't quite ready yet. Even with the little girl singing thing that he needed to hear, even that was off. The timing was off, and that stuff got to be so tight. And you could see like, oh, put it on the screen, and then the audience is seeing it before we see it. It's like the cameraman was trying to figure out the timing. So some of that stuff was like, when I saw it on YouTube, it was funnier to me because it was like it snapped. This one was always a little bit off. And you could tell that they were trying to get it together because he'd make a reference to something that, the audience is seeing, but we as people at home, we didn't know what he was talking about. And then the picture shows up versus while he's talking is up. So it was something that was kind of off with timing and stuff like that. Yeah, but even that joke, even though it was like, yeah, you shouldn't laugh at it, but it was just kind of funny the fact that it's just funny the stuff that we do and we know it don't make no sense, and we go ahead and do it, and we just be excited and pat ourselves on the back about it. It's almost like they're trying to make it like this great hero thing, but it's almost kind of like you putting your child in danger for what? So you could be on the news to brag about being a blind football player. Like, to me, that's the funny part. It's like
that is.
How messy can you be as a parent to be?
Yeah, that is the part.
To
that
put your you know what I mean? So that's what I was laughing at. Not that he's blind,
Well, that is the part that is like, and I can understand why Katt is just like, come on, man. Because Katt was like, I don't like this for him.
Yeah.
He was like, because somebody can knock him down in just everyday life.
Right. That's his normal life, to get hit by people and not know where it's coming from.
He's like, he don't even know he's on the field.
Right. And then on the YouTube one, they showed more of the clip, and it was funnier because they showed him running around and other stuff. Like, we missed part of it because it took a minute for our camera to show what the audience was seeing, and so it just felt broken. Like I said, just the way that was done. But yeah, I was expecting something different. I think it would have meant more to me. It made a bigger impression on me if I didn't already see it already, for the most part. But after that Club Shay Shay thing, yeah, I was expecting. To me, he always talks about truths, and I think he always exposes stuff in the way that he does it. But I was kind of thinking it would be more of that in this special. It's yeah, like I said, it wasn't bad, but it also, like you said, like, it's nothing you would necessarily talk about or whatever. Yeah, but I like Katt. Like I said, he should get into hosting. It would be just a whole that would be a whole entertaining thing in itself. And that kind of a setup. It's just, he already had that bit. He already had that show together, I'm sure. Because like I said, he's going on tour and all that. It was just the unfortunate part that the advertisement, the trailer was too good. How about that? The trailer was Club Shay Shay. The trailer was too good, and that's what you thought you was gonna get. So when you went to the actual movie, you got something else. And since you were expecting Club Shay Shay, then yes, it's gonna be hard to take that. When if you just didn't know it was coming, it probably would have took it differently.
Yeah. And I think as I continue to watch, and I thought about the title, which was Woke Folk, right?
Yeah.
Which speaks to like another one of those side conversations, how comedy, and this goes back to Carlin and a few other people, so it's not new to comedy, that there's always been this, and even before Carlin and you had Dick Gregory, there's always been people who have talked to you more than, like they made you think.
Yeah.
and made you laugh. So there's always been lecturers in the comedy circuit.
Right.
So this isn't new, but I think there's been some unqualified lecturers, right? That try to enter this circuit. Katt is a preacher though. And I think that's just the bottom line with him. He is a certified gospel preacher. Like, to me, he conducts everything like a sermon. He puts it together like a sermon.
Yeah.
He delivers it in a sermon style. And I'm not saying this as I'm like from a guessing point of view. It feels like a sermon. That's just the way he delivers everything. And of course, we know his background, with religion and everything. So we know that that's where he gets it from. So as I'm watching him kind of deliver this message in the name of it being like woke folk or whatever, like I see that he's delivering this overall message. I always feel like he's somewhat giving this weird conflicting message though that I don't fully agree with. But I do get it. I get the point that he's getting at, like when he's speaking to black folk, white folk, we all together.
Yeah.
But there is always this pervasive like notion with me that I cringe a little bit when I hear the excessive nature of how he uses and the way he uses the N-word and the way that he kind of goes about his comedy in mixed company and the way he goes about it in different ways. But I do like him. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But as I kind of just like I said, as the show progressed, I just was like, I get the notion of what he's getting at, what he's saying, what the longer, like lecture is about, like, be careful of what they trying, the tricks. Because that every last single one of his shows always got this bigger message of like, they trying to lie in your face or what they saying in America, all those type of things.
Right.
And I guess that's his niche. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's his thing, is that like, hey, he's telling you, be careful. It's something bigger, happening. I guess that's what sets him in the top. I guess that's what makes him better than other comedians. I don't know. Is that something that you like out of Katt? Is that something you there for? Or could you miss, if he never is that guy, are you good with him?
When you say that guy, what do you mean?
The guy who's preaching at you, saying something, trying to give you the positive messages? Or do you just want him to laugh, make you laugh, just be the clown? Or do you want the positive messages?
I'm not necessarily looking for a positive message, but I am, like I said, I like the truths that he kind of says in things. I think comedians find truths in things, the good ones do, and then they flip them in a perspective that make you laugh at it. It's almost kind of like the same thing you would normally be mad at if you say you have a day where you're having a good day, and that thing that your kid do that normally piss you off, you just have to laugh because it's just so crazy. Like, you know what? I could have been laughing at this the whole time, but it's so not what I wanted that I'm mad. But if I thought about what I actually saw and went through with this kid, I'd be on the floor laughing. Like, I would spank your butt, but you so silly. You ran to the wall and got yourself. So I didn't have to even get you. So sometimes stuff be like that. So I like his perspective. Like I said before, more so than I'm looking to be cracking up at one of his jokes. So I never look to him necessarily for that. I just want to hear his insight, kind of. Like I said, that's why I like the format of his conversation, because it kind of gave me the part about him I liked anyway.
So he went about a long kind of form. I ain't gonna say long form, but he went about a way of kind of, you think something's gonna come of him with this joke. He goes out his way to kind of say, hey, they be lying to us in our face. Mm-hmm. He said one of the things they lied about was they told us Jamie Foxx had a unknown illness.
Right.
And they didn't know what it was. And then they told us they cured the unknown illness. Then they told us that it was hot under the water or whatever, and that's where the cocaine come in. And then Jamie Foxx come up from under the water. Where the cocaine come from? So in an indirect way, he did all this stuff to set up a joke, just basically to say that Jamie Foxx had a cocaine overdose. Like, that was his messy way of saying that Jamie Foxx do cocaine. I'm pretty sure if we do the research, at some point, Jamie Foxx must have said, in a roast or somewhere, Jamie must have said, Katt do coke. And he wanted to you just know he's petty enough He probably was like, uh-huh, and noted that down, and this is his get back. It just had to have been. But do you think it's gonna be some sort of get back or something on that? Because Jamie Foxx ain't nothing to mess with. Like,
No, he's not. Yeah.
he still can be funny. He's still a bad man.
And he's another one that's really funny, but I don't necessarily could think of a stand-up special he did that I just loved. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of watch it because he's entertaining, and he might be playing the piano in there and singing a little bit, and he's silly acting, right? You know, like the Africa, you know, spitting the blow darts instead of bullets or something. Like he said some crazy sideways stuff. I'm thinking like that's kind of crazy that you would say some mess like that, but he's just silly. And like I said, he's another example. I like his storytelling. I like the story he tells, and I like how he is with people, and he's being silly and stuff. So that's entertaining to me. More entertaining. Like I would like to hear him tell a story in his conversations more than I would turn to a Jamie Foxx special, comedy special. Like I said, he's another one like that. And you are funny because now I gotta rewatch it because I didn't put together that's what he was saying about Jamie. I didn't understand because he's all over the place. I didn't understand it. So when you said it like that, I was like, oh.
That's how I took it. I took it as it was a long setup, and that it was just a long setup for him basically saying that about. Now I could be wrong.
That's probably right. It's bad because I left confused because I thought he was going to say it, but then just kind of like, oh, I ain't gonna tell you this business, you know, like I don't know.
Yeah,
you are funny, and that's probably, and he is petty enough to probably do it like that. And that's funny. I like that. I'm gonna rewatch it just for that.
But yeah, I think throughout the whole thing, the Jamie Foxx was the piece of dirt that we probably was that was all that he was gonna give up to us, which was fine. You know, like there was nothing else that we needed to get in a stand-up thing. Comedy is his baby. He's not supposed to get on stage and soil that. Like that is a pure spot for him. He can get in these interviews and he can get on Shannon Sharp, all these other places, and he can say stuff about Diddy and he can be salacious in all these other places. He needs to keep comedy pure. And if Jamie said something about him and he can strike back at Jamie and be cute and mention it because that's the line. That's a line to teeter.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he didn't go completely messy or do anything else to mess up. You know, like, I'm glad he kept it that way. What I text you last night, though, I told you in his closer, though, there's two people who used the setup of his closer. Wanda Sykes and Eddie Griffin are both well known for using the white slave joke. And they've used it excellently. Like it's been a huge part of their sets. Like both of them have had specials. And I want to say it was part of Wanda's opening and it was part of Eddie's closing in one of his Comedy Central specials. And this was like mid Eddie's career, end of like recent history Wanda. So like this is one of those things about comedy where the concept of saying white people make bad slaves isn't a new joke. Right. But Wanda literally said white people would make horrible slaves. They would be leaving to have to put on suntan lotion every 45 minutes. They would be growing the wrong crops. And then Eddie said they would be growing the wrong crops. They would be leaving early. They would be asking to speak to the manager. And Katt said I don't know who he took it from. He's cool with both of them, seemingly. You know what I'm saying? So it's art, and you know, like I can't say that like he took the joke from any like one person from the other one, right? Nothing's ever gonna come from it. No one cares. I think that this concept of you just talked about said still in a joke, and you just used a joke, and the joke that said took that you talked about said taken was a joke that was a Southern joke that people had used for years. You get what I'm saying? And this is a joke that people have used for years. So it's like, come on, man, this is comedy. Like now, so of course, Cat is probably gonna play the Drake card and act like I planned it that way, and I
So,
don't know.
so you thought that joke was close enough to that's where he had gotten it from? Like
That joke was word for word in two different parts, the exact same. Like he used it word for word the way Wanda used it. Like it's a little bit, the wording is a little bit different from the way Eddie used it, but it was exactly, he used it more like Eddie used it in a way he set it up like Eddie.
yeah,
Because Eddie, he set it up like Eddie because Eddie was using it in the same context because Eddie was like, because one thing that people don't recognize is that Eddie Griffin's style and Katt Williams' style is very similar.
yes,
Because Eddie is always came out talking that truth and lies stuff, like, and has always been the white man is keeping these lies from, he's always been on that.
now he's the first one I remember kind of being like one of those kind of, it's not even fair to say 'cause I think it's very dismissive, but conspiracy theorists kind of
Yeah,
folks and questioning religion and stuff like that,
yeah,
almost to where you're almost uncomfortable. But interesting and kind of good points for some of the stuff that he's talking about. So he's
yeah,
the first one I thought was like, man, because I'm always looking for information and like I said, truth tellers and stuff like that. But he was one of the first ones I remember that really kind of like, he's not playing.
yeah,
And I'm amazed that he's in the system being like that. But then I started noticing how he's, kind of got pushed out of it. The more
yeah.
he did that, the less you would see the other stuff.
And I got a running theory about why him and Kat both do that too. Also, I think both of them kind of use it as a not so much a trope, but like they use it as an running excuse too, as to why they don't have the success. They would both use it as a reason that they didn't have the success. And the problem is, like they'd be like, "See, I tell the truth. That's why I don't have this and I don't have that. But I don't need it because I got God. I got the true God." And it's like, and I've heard them say those exact words. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and it's always, "Oh, you don't have this amount of success because you tell the truth." And the truth is, both of them have been noted to not necessarily, like in Eddie's case, he's known around the comedy scene and on sets and other things as not being the greatest person to people sometimes too. There's reasons. I think people find that niche, and it's like, and it's easier to say like, "Hey, this is why I'm this way."
Okay.
But
Okay.
but the joke, but Kat set up the joke the way Eddie set up the joke as a way of saying white people are hiding the fact that they were slaves too,
Yeah.
and Eddie was like, and they was horrible slaves too,
Right.
and so they, but Eddie was like, but they was horrible N words too. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like, it just depends on, it is what it is.
Okay. So we're about to wrap up, but
Yeah,
I do believe that if you don't play a certain kind of way, you say certain things, or you could be a loose cannon with information, then I think that I think things reject things that feels like you are pissing in the house, like you will be removed. Now bad attitudes, too, but and this is going to be a conversation we're going to have later, but like with Amanda, she's another one of those quote unquote truth tellers, and
set it
so
up.
everybody should have the same kind of energy when you see it for Kat or Eddie or whatever. It's funny how what goes along with this truth stuff is this kind of messy attitude and messy behavior and messy treatment of others. And it's just like you could do truth without being a messy person. But I think regardless if you're messy or not, I think some of that stuff, if you're not playing ball, then you just get ejected from the game. And I think that's with anything. You could be a nice person and being a whistleblower, and you are going to get fired not because you were a jerk. It's because you are speaking against the system or speaking against the thing that you're in that's ejecting you. Everybody going to HR is not the mean people. A lot of times the mean people are the ones that stay there forever and protect it, and the ones who's trying to make things better or fix things get ejected just by questioning it. So it could go both ways. Not to say that they can't be mean and truth tellers, but I think it's some truth to it, and maybe that's why they probably get bitter about it and probably, get a funky chip on the shoulder because of that. But I think people just don't like rejection, and even though if you earn it, people still don't want it back. It's just funny how that goes, right? Like, I don't need the systems, I don't need people, and then you act mean to people, then people respond to you like that, and then you're mad that they don't like you. Like, that's an ugly circle that that I think a lot of people find themselves in when it comes to art or expression and all that kind of stuff. It could be a vicious circle, and many of great artists have gotten caught into that. And it's kind of sad to see sometimes because they can't see past it. They can't, they just know what they're feeling, but not understanding that they could be also perpetuating that thing that they're bumping against.
Yeah. So I say overall, man, when it comes to this special, I give it a 3 out of 5. I say, it is what it is. Like, it made me laugh once or twice. It was entertaining. It did what it was supposed to do. I think if I was there live, and let's just say if I was there live and I had like a gin and tonic in my system, I probably would have laughed hard. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
If I watched Lunel, because Lunel opened it and hosted it, maybe I would have laughed more. Like, some people in the audience was cracking up the whole time.
Yeah.
There was one thing that I wanted to say, and I'm just being silly when I say this. If it's a season of truth, and I just hope that Katt had allergies, because he started sniffing halfway through it really hard, and it just seemed like it was a cocaine sniff, but you ain't hear that from me. It just feel like
you stupid.
It's allergy season, so God bless him. Hopefully somebody get him some Allegra. I just feel like 3 out of 5 is a solid spot for it, and that ain't me hating. I think he did have a few jokes that I felt like he was reaching, and they were mean-spirited. They weren't good jokes. And I'm not even talking about the blind football player. I think that was just appropriately funny. There was just a few other jokes that I was like, all right, you just reaching. And then there's a few things that about it that was just, I was just listening to an entertaining storyteller tell his stories.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. And with some storytellers, you've just heard those stories and you don't need to hear them today.
Right.
And to be honest with you, if you was to be going to Netflix right now, if you was to, and this is the crazy thing, and we taking race out the picture, we just saying, if you said, what are the 3 things I want to laugh?
Yeah.
Unfrosted, Neil Brennan, and then Katt Williams will be the 3 things that are like right now.
Yes.
Like, Unfrosted is funny. Like, Jerry Seinfeld did a masterful job writing it. He's got a ton of funny people in it. Neil Brennan's new special is hilarious.
I like it.
His last 2 specials on Netflix have been hilarious.
Yeah.
So, like, there are some funny people on Netflix right now that's got some funny specials.
What about Monique?
Ali Sadiq overall. I feel like what's the young lady up out of Atlanta? God, what is her name? Mel. If you get a chance, Mel ain't got no specials out right now, but you can see Mel, like, she's got a few stand-ups on Kev on stages stuff. But if you see her live, Mel's real funny right now. It's some funny Black women. We're gonna talk about a female Black woman stand-up next time we get together. We're gonna talk about Amanda Seales and her conversation. Some people find her funny. We're gonna talk about her.
Yeah.
Next time we get together, real soon. Maybe the next time you hear my voice on this show. So
that sounds good. I enjoyed this show. I would recommend it. I don't really give numbers or anything, but I would recommend it. Expectations, I would say it's a if you're expecting what you got from Club Shay Shay, it's a different thing than that. I feel like it's a solid set. I feel that it was a little off, just like if you went to go see somebody twice in the club and one night is off and the next night it just hits and it's the same jokes. I feel like it being live kind of threw things off a little bit as far as timing. Like I said, I saw it before on something else and it kind of hit differently. So, but like I said, I find him to be entertaining, but it's definitely different than what you saw on the Club Shay Shay interview. But he was still Katt Williams. He was still doing his thing, same personality and all that kind of stuff, just in a different format. So yeah. All right. So I guess we both recommend it. And that was Jay and Drew. Open discussion about Katt Williams' new Netflix special, Woke Folk. All right. Till next time. Peace.
All right. Appreciate you, man. All right. Peace.